Boy, I've been looking forward to this presentation all morning. Maybe I can get a little sleep. These things are all alike. Seen one, seen them all. Hey, what was that? Sorry, Charlie. We just wanted to blow our own horn a bit. Hold it! Like I said before, what was that? Sorry, Charlie. What you just saw was a capsule of 10 years of autocar history. If you like, we can slow the presentation down a bit. Yeah, slow it down. I'm never gonna learn anything that'll help me make a buck if you run this thing through like a dose of salts. Sorry, Charlie. Let's back up a bit. The Autocar Company is probably the oldest exclusive manufacturer of motor vehicles in the industry. This motorized tricycle was built by the infant company in 1897 and created such a stir that it was exhibited in the Pittsburgh City Hall. Next on the scene was this light phaeton of the horseless carriage type. The fourth model was completed in the spring of 1899 and represented a significant advance toward reliability and consistency. Things that are today taken for granted, such as standardized parts and components, were non-existent in the new industry. Autocar was the first manufacturer to specify and furnish porcelain-insulated spark plugs, and the now standard 7/8 18 thread was an Autocar innovation later adopted by the SAE. The first Autocar catalog made the following offering: package carrier, fitted with special gear, capacity 770 pounds, including driver, $450. We assume that the driver referred to is not the one in the illustration. As the automotive industry took its first steps to gianthood, a young nation was making strides in international politics. Teddy Roosevelt was at San Juan Hill. Words like Tammany Hall, industrial relations, cartel, monopoly, and greenbacks were becoming commonplace. And on January 1st, 1900, a new word was added to the vocabularies of the residents of a small suburban town near Philadelphia. The word was Autocar, which announced the arrival of a new industry in Ardmore, Pennsylvania. From out of this building came many Autocar firsts during the next decade, contributions of lasting value to the automotive industry. In 1902, Lewis S. Clark, co-founder of the company, patented the first development of the double reduction gear in rear axle construction. Two-type V1 autocars participated in the first auto run of the Automobile Club of America, from New York City to Buffalo. Even the use of new artillery wheels with detachable double-tube tires couldn't overcome muddy roads and rain. This was the final proof that the chain drive was impractical. And in less than 2½ months, the car was redesigned and a working model produced. Without previous road testing, the car was driven from Ardmore, Pennsylvania to Madison Square Garden in the record time of 6 hours and 15 minutes. Thus, America was presented with its first shaft-driven automobile. More than 1,300 of this model were built and sold during 1902 and 1903. Autocar did not invent the wheel, but it is the first manufacturer to replace the steering lever with the steering wheel. Here are the papers to prove it. Other Autocar firsts include design specifications of the first electrical spark coil for ignition application, the first circulating motor lubrication system, the first departure from the French cone clutch to the now universal disc form. In 1907, Autocar produced the first shaft-driven commercial vehicle for operation on solid tires. This innovation made possible the successful adoption of the Hotchkiss drive principle, in which the propelling force is transferred to the frame through the springs. Another new old idea was the location of the engine under the seat to increase accessibility, shorten wheelbase, and distribute the load more evenly on the front and rear axles. By 1910, Autocar had developed vehicles to transport people, to help them in emergencies, to bring them into the world, to furnish them with goods, and to take them out of the world. Autocar was on the move, and so were the events of history. Somebody named Franz Ferdinand got himself assassinated. A tired president watched his dreams of peace fade. An unarmed liner was torpedoed and sank into oblivion, and we set out to make the world safe for democracy. New words crept into the American vocabulary. Words like Chateau Cherry and Bellow Wood, Hindenburg Line, Argonne, the Lost Battalion, the Fighting 69th, and the Marines have landed. Autocar contributed its share in the manufacture of armored cars, ambulances, and other service vehicles. Little time was available to solve the many problems in the design and production of entirely new types. The extensive use of armored plate kept the form of the armored vehicles simple and functional. Autocar had already demonstrated its achievements for vehicle reliability and service. The boys return home. The final score, 274,860 killed, wounded, and missing. By 1920, Autocar was producing trucks for an ever-increasing number of customers. For bakeries, for the construction industries, for the coal industry to perform a wide variety of tasks, for the food industry, for fuel and fuel oils, highway construction and contracting, a growing industry trying to keep pace with the growing road demands for motor vehicles. Other industries were growing too. Some of them were not quite legal, but this did not seem to hamper their popularity. For those who favored outdoor sports, there were plenty of attractions. Fashions were changing as fast as the times, and the morals and the habits. Endurance contests were all the rage. Day and night, frantic couples kept up an exhaustive pace until the contestants dropped. Thus was developed a sort of destructive testing of humans. Autocar was more seriously interested in another kind of endurance. To prove the new heavy-duty Autocar, which was added to the line in 1920, a grueling 7,612-mile cross-continent trip was begun on July 14th. The new model featured a 4-cylinder, 29.6 horsepower engine and had a chassis weight of 6,700 pounds. Fully loaded, the truck started out from Ardmore on the newly inaugurated Lincoln Highway. You will note that some road improvements have been made in the past few years. Westward they went, up Cove Mountain to Pittsburgh, through Canton, Ohio, to South Bend, to Chicago. The high point of the trip came with the completion of the 10,000-foot climb up Pikes Peak. All the extra preparation for the climb proved unnecessary as the autocars made the run without incident. The radiators still held the same Ardmore water they started out with, a remarkable feat at the time. After a short layover, the return trip was made via Los Angeles, the Santa Fe Trail, and Kansas City. And on November 6th, 146 days after departure, the trucks returned to Ardmore. The 20s began to roar as many people got their start. Quiet people like Harry Truman, enthusiastic people like Valentino, obviously talented people like Helen Hayes, who portrayed Cleopatra in the early movies, funny people like Laurel and Hardy, and not so funny people who were dead serious about their deadly business. The people at Autocar were serious too, but in a civil and businesslike way. New heavy-duty trucks were finding applications in a wide variety of industries. The 20s roared on to their crashing conclusion, and the sound was heard round the world. Yesterday's millionaire was today's pauper. Bread lines were commonplace. The apple industry was one of the few that thrived. And the grapes of wrath were harvested by millions of Dust Bowl destitutes. America girded its loins and went back to work. But despite the general economic downtrend, Autocar continued to thrive and to be an industry leader. In 1933, when legal restrictions became more rigid, the company designed this line of short wheelbase, cab-over-engine type model. After a brief stretch of peace and prosperity, it was Johnny, get your gun all over again. In 1940, the national defense emergency was declared. Autocar rallied the call, and thousands of armored half-track vehicles rolled off the assembly line for the next 5 years. In 1944, with the war in its final stages, Autocar was commissioned to build heavy-duty civilian-type trucks for military purposes. America had survived another crisis, and the post-war boom was on. Autocar sales soared to new heights. In the late 40s, the economy returned to normal. Autocar developed several new models and maintained a position of leadership in the truck industry. While the Yankees were making sports headlines by winning the 1955 World Series, Autocar was making headlines on the business pages. This pact strengthened the marketing and manufacturing positions of both companies, and it marked Autocar's entrance into the custom engineering field.
Gee, that's quite a story. Real inspiring. Enjoyed it. Be seeing you.
Wait a minute, Charlie. You haven't seen anything yet.
You mean there's more?
Charlie, that's only the beginning.
Wow!
That's right, Charlie, because that's what Autocar is selling today. Custom engineering and high quality. That's why when people think of an Autocar, they think of the finest product money can buy. When people describe an Autocar, they compare it to this. It's the epitome.
It's the, what I mean?
The best. And anyone who's ever owned one would rather fight than switch. And with good reason, too. Because regardless of the application, in construction, in mining, in quarrying, for logging, in the oil fields, over the road hauling, and hauling heavy equipment of any kind, there's an Autocar that can do the job and do it better than any other truck on the road today. That's because there is no such thing as a standard Autocar. Each and every Autocar is special, literally handcrafted by experts to do a specific job. This craftsmanship, combined with modern production methods, results in quality unparalleled in the trucking industry. This is what makes an Autocar stand above the competition.